feel kind of alone, but it's okay. You guys can type in the chat so I don't feel like crying in the corner, being all alone. Anyways, so welcome to the first Shoujohearts Typesetting Workshop. Uh, I have the Shoujohearts team here, my beautiful staff members. I also have Phanpy, who actually did the typesetting tutorial on our website, which I am going to link right now, which is legit what I'm basing this PowerPoint presentation on. So let me just link that for your delightful people to also follow along, whichever you wish. Her typesetting tutorial has more information, has like step-by-step, more details. So I'm just going to do a brief overview of what we require in this group. So every group, I'm sure you guys have worked with different groups, had different standards that they wanted. And this is just the Shoujohearts standard. Not to say that mine is better or worse or whatever than anyone. This is just how we do it in our group. And if you want to typeset in our group, this is what's going to happen. And please, if you follow this, it will make my life so much easier. So at this point, everybody here has varying levels, beginner, intermediate, advanced. So I just want to have a consistency. So yeah, now we're going to get to it. So, oops. So today in our agenda, we're going to cover what is typesetting, which sounds very philosophical. I'm taking a lot of philosophy classes. Go minasai. And essential tools, what you're going to need for typesetting. What is a typesetting legend? We're going to go with our version of it. We're going to review some basic rules for the beginners. I know some intermediate, advanced people are going to be like, oh, what is this? Like elementary school. But we're going to get to advanced font rules, which is going to cover like fancy SFX and cool patterns, which our lovely Phanpy is going to take over because that is her expertise. SFX is not mine. I usually let people do their own SFX. I want to encourage like your creativity, and I usually don't touch that. But I will touch the basic rules like the centering and all of that stuff, all the goodies we're going to get into. And lastly, we're going to cover layout and leading the reader's eye. Like it's very important to kind of think about like graphic design type. Not to say that you have to be a graphic designer, but there's a certain rhythm, there's a certain way to lead the reader's eye, which makes it aesthetically pleasing. Okay. Let's see. So what is typesetting? So obviously, I mean, maybe you don't know, but if you are not new, if you have never typeset before, it's basically adding text to the page. So we have the script, we have the clean pages. It's everything that's typed on the screen, on the paper. So very different, if you're doing like visual novels or doing all these different kinds, there's different ways where you can typeset. And the main thing is the fonts will affect the mood. And of course it represents the group that's doing the typesetting, or the company that's doing the typesetting. So it really, you want to give the best representation of the manga. So if it's like a horror manga, it's going to really affect what fonts you choose. If it's a bubbly, romantic shoujo manga, you're going to have more like rounded, kind of like my fonts here. This is Baby Doll, the font name. In the future, you're gonna memorize all these font names because you're gonna use them so often. And different styles of typesetting. So like I mentioned before, every group has their own standards, and I'll be showing you the standard for specifically Shoujohearts. And just a little background of this, I learned a lot from like the original scanlators that I've been doing this for like 10, 15 years. Some stuff that I learned on the way from different groups, and this graphic designer typesetter And of course, Phanpy, who's also part of the OG group. So let's get started. Oh, by the way, this is if you know what manga this is, then you if you know, you know. It's not ours, but I really like the picture. So this is an example of the presentation you can do with typesetting. Over here, like the mood of the fonts. This is a shoujo 6/2. This is a one shot, and this is beautiful SFX by Rui from another group, Atelier du Noir. And she's really talented. I wish she was here too, but she's busy. But it would have been cool to also get her expertise on SFX. But yeah, if you see the style of the thumb on this this top panel, it's very beautiful, and maybe you know how to do this, maybe you don't, but hopefully you can learn a thing or two in this tutorial. And of course, this one at the bottom, the whoosh, 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 whoosh. You kind of want to choose fonts that kind of evoke that emotion, that feeling, to help the reader connect with what they're reading with. So maybe some people might think that this is kind of a lot to do for a fan translation, but we're creative people here. We want to do a good job. We want to see and read something that we would want to read it. Like we want to produce good quality because we ourselves enjoy that. So now, essential tools. What do you need to start? So let's start with, of course, you need Photoshop. If you have Photoshop, if you don't have Photoshop, don't worry, we got you covered. We have some, versions that we share with our staff, free of charge, of course. But I think most of you here have Photoshop, so maybe if anybody needs a Photoshop tutorial, we can do a separate basic course on that. But I don't think anybody wanted that for this particular group, so that should be fine. Essential tools, again, typesetting legend. Every group has their own kind of legend, and I'm going to show you guys what our legend looks like and what it entails, how to read it. I know some of our new typesetters are kind of thrown in, like, here's our typesetting legend, and are kind of like, whoa, what is going on? This is a lot. So hopefully this tutorial will help you with that. Then next we have Typesetter, or the newer version that I'm still gonna, try it a little bit, Typer Tools, which I tried it and it's so cool. But we're not gonna really focus on this stuff. We're gonna focus more on the actual aspects of typesetting. This is just to get you started. Then Fan View is my best friend. Fan View, if you don't know what it is, it's kind of like a photo viewing application. So instead of, when you're done like a chapter and you're like, oh, I want to review what I did, but I don't want to click on every single Photoshop file. Fan View lets you just right click on the Photoshop file and see them as images. And you can just, click the arrow key and click through all the images so you can do a quick review. It's my best friend. It's the best thing I've ever used. And now font resources, which you can also see a link to that if you're following on Phanpy's guide. You can see some links where she provides font resources, like where to download fonts, which you can see on this image here, the font, which funny story, I've been using since I was 11, working on Paint, doing stupid graphic stuff because I don't know what's wrong with me, but I've been using this font since that time, and it's wow, it's been a long time. And it's really cool to use because they categorize by feeling, if you click on calligraphy, you'll get these really beautiful calligraphy. So it's all separated into categories. And you can type in the word that you're looking for, and all the fonts will look like that word. So it can give you an idea of what you'll be downloading. But if you're not familiar with the font, talk to me later and I'll walk you through that with them. And of course we have The 3,000 font folder from Shoujohearts. That's thanks to Charlotte from Dan Fields. She accumulated that, I think, with Rui too. I don't know how in God's name they accumulated that much fonts. Some are paid. I don't even know how they got that. But we are blessed with their love. So thank God. So these are basically the tools you'll need. If you're unfamiliar with that, I believe, yeah, just talk to me later and we'll go over them. Now, typesetting legend. There's a reason I put like a map icon on the top. This will help you navigate what you need to do with the text and where to put it and what kind of text it is and where to put it on the manga. So each series has its own legend. Of course, each series has a different mood, has a different just theme. So we try to kind of allocate those fonts to certain series. There's sometimes repeat fonts, of course, but yeah. So make sure to have the corresponding fonts. Usually they're in that typesetting font that I mentioned earlier. Or if you don't see it anywhere, you can't find it, just let me know and I'll send it to you. But I should have all those fonts in that huge folder. And finally, for the typesetting legend, it's very important you're familiar with the terminology, which don't worry, we're going to go over together here. 1 second, water. I'm talking so much, it feels so weird. All right, this is our beautiful typesetting legend, which it has come a long way. Our typesetting legend used to be like a text file, and it was so bare bones. You guys are lucky to have this. So the typesetting legends are divided into different categories, which you'll see in the. I'll send you a link later to review it. And this is kind of what it would look like. So the series on the left, a little picture to add, a little fanciness. Yes, my Excel sheets are very extra, as you can tell. So over here, if you look, there's essentials, and that is the dialogue, the thoughts, narration, small text. This is translator note. Not to be confused with translator note TNP. We'll go over the script in a little bit, but TN is basically for the staff, and TNP, which is translator note for the public, is for to actually put on the manga. So sometimes the translator will have a note for us to be like, oh, don't worry, I didn't translate this because it actually doesn't say anything worthwhile, or something for us to know. Yeah, the covers or volume covers, usually I've chosen specific font to represent the series, with a title, summary, author text, author note. And tech is very very fun because a lot of the new manga has a lot of like text message, Twitter, and it helps keeping consistency. Now, terminology. So this could be a little daunting. If you look back at the typesetting legend, you'll see that over here there's font name and all this stuff that if you're not familiar with typesetting, you're just like, what is all of that? What is that mess? So let's just go over it. So over here, of course, done by beautiful Phanpy. Thank you so much for this. So font name. So here we have Myriad Pro Regular. Font style. We'll go what that means later on. Font size, how big you want it. Here you can the double T. Can you see my mouse? I don't know if you can see my mouse, but
yeah, we can.
Okay, thank you. So all caps here. So this is really handy when you're typing, like the script has lower caps, and you're like, oh, I don't want to retype it. So you just click all caps and it'll be all capital. There's faux italic and there's faux bold. I don't suggest to go with this. Like if you have a font style that has automatically an italic or bold, please go with that one. because it was made for that. Full bold and full italic is when the font doesn't offer that style. The color and the anti-alias. This is usually always smooth, and this is really important too, the alignment. So here we have centered. Usually do the centered option, and hyphenate. Again, thank you, Phanpy, for this beautiful. I also have this on the typesetting legend on the side. So if you don't remember a terminology, don't worry. I am not expecting you to memorize this. So there will always be a reference on the typesetting legend. And as you do this more and more, it's very repetitive. So you'll just eventually just know what it is. Now, this is a script for our translators here. Holla! They're very familiar with this, but for people that haven't typeset, don't know, and of course, every group has like a different script. This is ours, and I'll show you guys what it all means because it kind of looks very like code-ish, and it's like, what is it? What does that actually translate to? So here is an example. So if you look at the proofread script, there's the little 2 dash. That's what it means, like a new panel. So like this is a panel. So when there's a 2 dash, it means go to the next panel. When there's a 2 quotes, that's the bubble. If there's 1 slash, it's not go to the next panel, but it just means that it's split. So if you look at here, I'm not interested, it's on this bubble, and I want to work as soon as possible, it's on this bubble. And our favorite SFX over here, you can see it here, which is right under the bubble, which has a bunch of split bubbles. So hopefully this makes sense. This is obviously a little brief overview, so you don't feel intimidated by the script when you first see it. But it'll be cool because as you do more and more, it kind of like, it really, like I said, it helps you navigate where you have to put the text. 6/2. Beautiful. Anyways, basic rules. So always use the raws as reference. There's going to be sometimes like the fonts are very big and bold. Sometimes they're very thin and long. So we try to be as similar to the original as possible. Of course, sometimes we can't because they have some crazy gradient stuff that we don't always have the ability to reproduce, but use them. Also, I'll show you something in a bit about how to do that. Create a typesetting folder, how we're going to input text, the character panel, and bubble shaping. If this means nothing to you, don't worry. We're just going to talk about them each briefly. So Ross is reference. Thank you again for Phanpy for the images. So this is ringing of a telephone. You can see that there's a pattern, and it's very similar to the original. And even the shape of it, it's like going like ring. And what's really awesome about SFX is that it gives you the ability to kind of shape it to the sound. So you can, like, by looking at it, you can hear it in a way. I don't know if I'm just crazy, but but it's like the ring. There's a lower. I don't know why I'm doing it with my hands. You guys can't even see me, but there's like a dip here. And then there's grab, which as you can see, it's a little thinner and like sharp. And of course, the direction is very close, and the gradient is amazing, beautiful work. By using raws as a reference, usually when you have your typesetting folder here, you're just going to click on the I for cleans, and you'll be able to see the raws. So you can use that as a reference if the script isn't clear enough for you. Also, sometimes if there is a translation missing, you'll be able to spot it, and you can like message me or someone and be like, hey, there's something missing, which yeah, it can happen. So keep your eye out on that. So how to create a folder. I'm sure a lot of you know, since you guys are all Photoshop veterans, am I right? So Phanpy shows here on the left picture that you can create an action, which I didn't think about doing that. I just like to torture myself, I guess, and I manually add a new folder every time. Anyways, so yeah, in this folder, you can open it and close it, and if you need to mass change all the fonts, you can just select them all. This is really useful when you want to change it to optical. Yeah, and I'll get to that in a bit. So inputting text. So this is something I spoke to a typesetter about, not gonna name names, but when you input text, there's an option to click and type, right? So you're gonna click on the bubble and just paste the text. What you're gonna wanna do instead, in majority of the occasions, is doing a text box. So you're gonna click on the box and make the shape of a box. So you click, make a shape, make it a box, and then input the script there. So this part of the text box, you can adjust it to like play with the shape, with the size. It makes it easier for not only you to typeset, but for me to QC. So please keep that in mind. The time is when it is necessary for like click and type, or you're gonna need it for like these manual adjustments, because if you put it in a circle, it's gonna look like that, but you're gonna want to indent it a little bit so it doesn't touch this little panel. So yeah, keep that in mind. Always have like a little space in between the panel and the text, because this does not look very, very beautiful. And we're all about making things beautiful here. Now, character panel. This is your best friend. Over here where it says regular, this is what I was saying about you can change the style of the font. So regular, italic, bold. Please go with this one instead of the full bold and italic over here highlighted. If it's not available, then of course you can use full bold if you have to. But this should be the first option. Leading is cool. These are different adjustments of the leading. So this is the first one is the normal leading at auto. If you decrease the leading, it kind of pushes the letters together. If you increase the leading, it'll push them apart. So depending on what you do, usually like SFX, or if you're doing like background signs or stuff like that, you're gonna need to adjust this to make it look more realistic. Oh, when you're doing like text messages, sometimes you might need it. I think we'll get into it later, but this is really cool to know. And in the typesetting legend, it'll usually say what the leading is. Sometimes fonts are not very beautiful and on auto, or yeah. Now, bubble shaping, yay! So this is, I think, the biggest struggle I've had to deal with typesetters. I love you guys, but I don't know if, I think showing you this might help, understand what I mean by bubble shape, because it's like when you're used to it, you kind of see the shape. Like every time I see a bubble, I see an imaginary line. You know what I mean? Well, maybe you don't, but I'll show you. So tall, round padding around the bubble. This is important because you don't want it to look very small. Cough, cough. Certain groups that you might know who I'm referring to. And you don't want it to look too big because it's kind of like, ugh. We're going to go over hyphenation, how to do joint bubbles, and border bubbles. Now, what do I mean by the margin? Do you see this image of the red circle? Yes, I hope you do. Please, do you see how the white around it, it's kind of like a frame, like a beautiful frame that you don't want to, like it just looks like a frame. You want your bubbles to look like that, the bottom red one-ish, without the red, of course. The middle one, it's too large. Please tell me you can see why I don't like it. Do you see how this tiny little space here and this tiny, tiny, tiny little space here, and it's big and then big, and then, it's like, it feels kind of like claustrophobic. I get claustrophobia looking at that. So please keep in mind the bubble shape. So watch out for the margin, adjust the font size, and play with the bubble shape. So sometimes you're not going to get a perfect bubble, but just, try to move things around. Sometimes shrink the font a little bit until it gives you that. Sometimes you're not going to get a perfect bubble, so that's okay. Things happen. And plus, I'm going to be QCing it, so I got your back. Now, hyphenation. Oh, wow. Okay, I did miss a little bit here. Sorry. It's on Phanpy's tutorial, okay? Phanpy had some suggestions on how to deal with hyphenation, which I'm going to pull up here. Sorry. 1 second. I just want to make sure it's... So hyphenation, if you see on the first bubble, it's... 1 sec. Hyphenation. On the first bubble, you see how Yamaguchi is hyphenated. That's what we mean by hyphenation. Sometimes the bubbles are gonna need it, to have the circle bubble. This one is not a circle. See how it kind of looks like a upward going arrow. But sometimes it's necessary. Like sometimes you can't get out of it. So it depends. You're gonna be in situations where no matter what you try, the bubble is not going to be perfect. But there's a fine line between using hyphens and not. And usually it's like a hard task to tell how much to use or not. So usually you want to divide like Iponyari-san, sorry for butchering the pronunciation. If there's a hyphen here already, you can hyphenate that usually in a lot of scenarios if you have to. Or if it's like disappeared, you want to hyphen it on the last syllable, if that makes sense. So disa hyphen peer. Or, like you don't want it to be like hyphen poyonari. You don't want it to be disconjointed. You want to be readable, but not too like, I've seen some bubbles that are like 3 or 4 hyphens in one bubble, and I'm just like, oh god. I'm so I don't even know what it's saying anymore because half the bubble is hyphenated. But yeah, so if you need more information on hyphenation, just go with Phanpy's amazing typesetting guide. There's more information on how to do that if you're struggling with it. Now, joint bubbles are sometimes hard, sometimes easy, depends on the placement. But usually you're going to want to place the bubble right in the middle. Problems occur when the bubbles are kind of very scrunched up, like too close together, or it's like very vertical and it's kind of like, oof, you have to squish them together, which I'll show you in a second. But rule of thumb, usually try to, like if this is how your bubble is naturally in the center, lower the font so it's not on the same line like here. So it stands out and it's easier to read. I don't know if you can tell, but it's much easier to read this in this bubble than this one. So this is the normal and this is adjusted, which is what we like. Phanpy goes into detail on why this is important. So yeah, go ahead and read that. Now, border bubbles. This is what I was saying when the bubbles are so thin and you're like, oh, I have to squeeze in like 10,000 texts. How do I do it? So this is when tracking is your best friend. Tracking is this one highlighted. And I believe this one is horizontal shift. Correct me if I'm wrong, Phanpy. You can adjust how it looks. So it was, where is it? You can make it more narrow so it looks like this. And if you compare it to this one and the bottom one, you can see that it's more narrow because of the tracking. And yeah, I also like how Phanpy mentioned that it has this kind of hourglass figure over here to make it look better. Because if you think about it, if this bubble has a invisible line here, it would kind of go with this hourglass. But yeah. So definitely not number one. This one, you do not want to do this. Please, for the love of God, don't give me this. I love you. Please don't do this to me. Try to do the best you can. You know, it'll get easier the more you do it. And yeah, I think that's it for this one. Yes, horizontal scaling. Sorry. Okay, now we're on advanced font manipulation. Oh wait, I should ask before all of this. Do you guys have any questions so far? Should have asked before, I'm sorry. Just unmute if you have a question, if you want me to go over something quickly, or if you're not clear about something, you can send it in the chat or unmute. All good? Okay. And now we're gonna, I believe this is Phanpy's. Phanpy, is this your turn now? Are you there? SFX? Wait.
Is this? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, Abby has gone over.
Wait. I think you're doing SFX. Hold on. That is... Okay, yeah, never mind. Slide 31. Sorry. I'll get back to you. I knew you were like freaking out for a reason. Okay.
I will go back to meeting myself.
Sorry. I got so excited because like this is Phanpy's territory. I'm so scared of messing anything up here because I'm not a pro like Phanpy. So advanced font manipulation. So this would be if you're a beginner, this you might know a little bit of this kind of stuff. I don't expect you to know all of this. So this is the kind of stuff that you're probably gonna learn eventually. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want you to be like, oh my god, there's so much information. This from now on would be more focused on intermediate typesetters. Eventually, you'll learn this as a beginner, but yeah. So don't stress. Now, what we're talking about for advanced font manipulation, we learned the basics, and now we want to know how to get into the nitty gritty of it, how to edit the font, and usually like SFX and like those more complicated typesetting scenarios. So changing the font size, I put this in here because I thought Phanpy introduced a really cool shortcut on how to do this, which I don't know why I suffer. Like, there's so many shortcuts that Phanpy introduces, and I just no, I'll just manually suffer and manually add the numbers. I'm. This is probably why QC takes me forever. So there's changing font size. There's what is kerning, what is tracking, baseline shift, horizontal scaling, warping text, and then we're going to learn also about stroke and pattern overlay, which is what Phanpy is going to cover. So this is the shortcut I was talking about. To decrease, you press Control Shift Command comma. No, yeah, Control Shift comma. To decrease the size by 1, and to increase is Control Shift period. I have not tried this, but I trust in Phanpy. We trust. So let me know what you guys how it worked out for you guys. Now kerning, this is my favorite. We didn't. I don't think I mentioned this earlier, but kerning, for the most part, you're gonna always go with optical. Please, I've had to correct a lot of chapters that had all the chapters on metrics. And it's not that hard to correct it. You just, like I mentioned earlier, you just select all the layers and then you just press optical and it automatically update. The reason why this is important because regarding certain fonts, the placing of the letters can be different. Like it can squish them in together or it can separate them. Usually it'll tell you in the typesetting legend if it's optical or metrics. There are rare occasions where I want metrics, but for the most part, keep it on optical. We covered tracking already, which is squishing in the font to make it even closer. Baseline shift. Now, this one is a really cool tool when you want to spice up those sound effects and your text. So this is a normal text, and then with baseline shift, what it happens is you see, okay, so if this is the base, you edit one letter at like 0, and then the baseline shift, you'll put like -5 or whatever. So the new normal will be here. And then this one, you know, normal at 0, and this one -2, and then this one -3, and then this one -4. You know, you just want to play around with this, with the baseline, experiment as much as you want. Yeah, I think, should I show you where it is again? The baseline shift was over here where it says A. Actually, I should show you the Phanpy's rating. Yeah. Oh, she didn't. It's here anyways. The A and the 0px. That's the baseline shift. So you can also spice it up and add like shadows and different cool. Let me just make this full screen. You can add little shadows. You can spice it up. This is done by Charlotte, and up here is done by Phanpy, I believe. You can also do warp text, which I know Sweet was working on this a lot, and she had a lot of fun with the warping text. I saw you. So that was, you know, you can warp it. Make sure not to warp it too much or it doesn't look very natural. But you can try different, there's squeeze, shell upper, and, you know, play around with it. Now, stroke is your best friend. I said character styles is your best friend, but this, I use this all the time. You, the first one here, image, does not have stroke, but you want it to stand out, so you can add a stroke here. This is the white stroke. There are some Photoshops where or the newest one where you can add multiple strokes, which blew my mind when I think Phanpy showed that to me. So that was really cool, especially if you want to do like a white stroke and then a black stroke, and then, you know, you just go crazy, but not too crazy. Normally for bubbles, you're gonna just want to do a white stroke, or if it's like if it's hard to, like, depends on black stroke, but usually a white stroke works really well. This is how you can access it. So Phanpy showed 3 different ways that you can access it. So there's the right-click the layer blending options, which is the one I've always used. But I'm going to try the third option, which is what Phanpy recommends, which is the FX button at the bottom of the layers panel, and then do layer blending options, which is perfect because it lets you see, you can adjust it and see the result side by side. But yeah. Don't suffer like me. And the second option, I haven't done it, so I'm not familiar with it, but the double click the empty space around the layer name, not the name itself, or you'll just end up renaming the layer. So yeah, double click. Interesting. But yeah, if you don't want to suffer, go with the third option. Okay, now I'm gonna pass it off to Phanpy because she's the expert.
Yay!
Beautiful, beautiful work, both done by Phanpy. She is very talented. And passing the mic off to you.
Okay, so just a disclaimer. I do both SFXs by typing text and then manipulating it, and I also draw text. So I make a new layer and draw with the tablet. Just so you guys know. So the 2 examples over here are drawn, hand-drawn. So it can be recreated, but it's not going to be as easy, but it's going to be possible. So if you guys are interested in trying to make something that looks like the peel SFX to the left, what you basically have to do is type one letter and in each new layer. So you have 4 different layers, P, E, E, L, and then you just go around and position it in the right place, rotate it to the left or to the right, change the size, and then you can make something like that. Let's see. I think in the example, we're going to be showing you guys how to recreate the peel SFX to the left. So assuming you've already typed their letters and put them in their proper places, what I would recommend if you want to make it detailed is to start off having the font color as white, because if you're going to have patterns afterwards, it's best to put the patterns on a white text. So first off, we're going to add a stroke, a black stroke around our white text, which is what we're seeing right now, a tiny black stroke with the pixel size of 2 positioned in the center. If you play around with the different options there, you could see that the positioning could be inner, center, or outer. It basically tells you which direction the stroke is going to be based on the outline of the, based on the actual font edges. I'm sorry, my cat is typing and trying to keep her away from the keyboard, so I'm a bit distracting. Okay, stay away, cat. There you go. There you go. She wants some attention. Okay. So the original SFX had a black line as the actual font or text edge and another white border around it. You can see it in the next slide. What we're going to do is we're going to have another stroke. It's not so visible, but if you kind of squint and take a look, you'll see that there's a little white margin or border or stroke, what it's actually called, between the peel SFX and the background. We're doing that so the actual SFX kind of pops out a bit and doesn't just blend into the background. So in the newer Photoshops, like Abby mentioned earlier, it's possible to have 2 strokes at the same time. You can see on the left side. And it's kind of like layers in the way that the one on top is the one that's kind of on top. You can experiment on it. There are arrows on the bottom that can, if you go all the way down, yeah, there are arrows all the way there that you can click on to make to move the stroke layers kind of up or down. Okay, and then yeah, next we'll add the pattern. You'll see it in the same place when you add the stroke. Over there is a pattern overlay option. And what it does is that if you already have patterns saved into your Photoshop, they're like, I think they're called .pat files, which you can download on DeviantArt or Behance or other websites. You can load it onto Photoshop, and it's going to show up there in that little box to the right. So what you can do is choose from the different patterns you have, try to select one that matches what the mangaka has already used in the manga, and you basically have it. That's basically it. There are lots of different options there, like blend modes or opacities or scales. I don't usually touch that. The only thing you really need to touch is just choose the pattern there in the middle.
Sorry, where can you find the patterns again?
Yes. Do you mean like the actual pattern files or how to add patterns?
Yeah, because I still want to like experiment with all that with the SFX, and there was a certain pattern I couldn't find when I was trying to do it, and I was like, where do I go for patterns?
That is a very good question. I the pattern sets I have are from DeviantArt. You can search for screen tones. Those are the ones that actually look like the ones they use in manga, which are made up of hundreds of tiny small dots. The ones that actually look like they're made to be printed and not, so they're a bit rougher. Yeah. And then this one is another one. After adding the pattern overlay, I added as well gradient overlay. So what it does is that it makes the upper and lower parts of the peel SFX look lighter and the middle one look darker. So I didn't just decide that, I just tried to copy the original as much as possible. So I had to do some tinkering around to make it work. The thing about adding gradient overlays is that you have to make sure that the blend mode, the highlighted part in the panel, is overlay. I'm going to show you why later. There are different options here that you can play with as well, which is opacity, which is basically saying how visible the gradient is. 100% is like completely visible. And when you go down, it gets a bit, it's kind of faded. So you can play around with that and see what looks best or what looks the most similar to the original. And then, depending on what kind of gradient you're using, there can be an option to change angles, which is also possibly there. So you can play around with that as well. Okay, so it's important to make sure that the gradient overlay is actually set to blend mode overlay, because if you forget and the blend mode is normal, it's going to look like the one you see now, which is just the gradient overlay on top. The pattern underneath doesn't show through because the gradient isn't blended. I am not actually sure how the different blend modes work. I just know that overlay is the one that kind of meshes a darker gradient with the pattern below. You should try experimenting. So anyway, that's my tiny tutorial on how to use 4 different layers. Remember to make that.
Thank you, Phanpy.
Yeah, you're welcome. Just ask me questions in Discord if you guys are wondering also.
Yeah, does anybody have any questions? This is Phanpy herself who, looking up typesetting, so don't feel shy if you have any questions. Aw, getting some love in the chat. Okay, well, I guess just message if you are shy and want to talk privately. Thank you, Phanpy. Now, we're on the last portion. I'm sorry, I've been talking for so long. So this is the last portion, the layout. I wasn't gonna add it in, but I thought, you know what? If I already have you here, I might as well talk a little bit about the position of the eye when it's reading. I'll get into it. So when you're reading this, you see how Phanpy eloquently put arrows. You're going to be like reading down and then to the next and the next. And then sometimes automatically you're going to go here. But the actual correct way is to go down here. But you see how it leads us to here? You want to lead the reader to the second panel. So an example of how to do that would be this way, which is so cool. So usually manga would start from from this side, and you can go this way, and then it'll just zigzag back up. So you want to make it as easy for the reader to read. This is some like graphic design cheats, that we learned on the way. But yeah, it really adds to how professional we like to have our work done. This is another example of how beautifully laid out this one is. So there's here, there's a zigzag. And it makes it so it makes so much sense on how to read it, you know, like just that's not how you naturally are going to read it, especially if you work on manga where it's like right to left instead of left to right. And yeah, that concludes our workshop. I was thinking we can have either a little break and I can show you in person if you want, or you know, the typesetting in action. But I think I might leave that for a second video. I don't know if it depends on if people want to see me QC a little bit to get a feel of it, because it, you know, I was gonna do an activity, but then I didn't want to pressure you guys to do a page, and like I didn't want to make it work. So I want you guys to just have fun, enjoy it, and be like, okay, really decide for yourself if this is what you want. So I can, for whoever's interested later, I can do like in action. I can show you how it is. I'll probably stop recording for that. But yeah, if you're interested, let me know. And please check out Phanpy's typesetting. It's a complete guide, step by step. It's on our forum. I linked it above, but I'll link it again in a bit. And thank you so much. Thank you everyone for coming. You're amazing. And I hope you can typeset with us. And whoever's watching who is not in the workshop, I hope you can join our team. And yeah, this is how we do it. Thank you. You guys can unmute now if you want.
Thanks for putting this together.
Yeah,
It was great.
thank you.
Yay.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so happy. I was like, did everyone fall asleep? I was worried. Thank you. Well, I mean, how do you guys feel? Do you feel overwhelmed? Do you like how do you feel?
I think it's great. I think this is a good introductory thing, and you know, we can take it from here.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I did want to add a little bit of the SFX training, so everybody, you know, like don't worry if you don't know how to do it, we're gonna help you. But this is the kind of stuff we want to, you know, achieve, and it makes it fun. It's so fun to work with font like that if you like that, of course.
I think this video would also be super helpful if you put it up in like the typesetting tutorial section
Yeah,
when you
that's what I'm
recorded
thinking.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like it's so articulate, well thought out. I think it's a great start. Like it's definitely an awesome presentation. Like thank you guys for presenting it. Because it's so much. Like for me, I'm more of like a visual learner, so like I got to see it physically happening for me to learn from it, rather than like just following instructions. So like when I see it like explained, and like when you see it in action, you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That's what I wanted to do. Like, if you guys were interested in like watching me do it, but maybe you guys have better things to do. But but I think it should like set you up really well for just starting right away now, if you wanted to. Is there anything you guys want to learn in particular, more in detail, or anything like that?
What about really, really detailed SFX?
Yeah, that would be. That's Phanpy, step right up.
Like a challenge is like trying not to drown you guys in too much detail, because there are a lot of things that go into making really detailed SFXs.
Yeah.
So,
By far the roughest thing I've ever done with typesetting is just making SFX, especially because, you know, mostly I just do different fonts and make them do different things.
that's basically it, but now you just have to make them do different things in different ways and different percentages in up and down, and kind of squish them together around. So,
but yeah, we could do a more intermediate thing eventually when Phanpy has more time to really, like, if you really want to just focus on SFX, we could do like a more intermediate level of that if anyone's interested in that. Because personally, I love SFX. I love how beautiful some people can be. I want to get Rui on board for this.
yes, he is amazing at SFX.
Yeah.
I think I think it'd also be good to know like the actions, like the how to the different actions you can use that can help shortcut some of the more complicated things.
That's a good
Like
point.
I want to learn more about that too.
Okay.
Like how to set actions up and stuff like that.
I'm gonna write that down. Actions, advanced SFX. Does anybody else have any suggestions or questions that you want maybe to go over or anything like that? Feel free. Don't be shy.
Yeah, mine was mainly just rather like the actions SFX and like where to find the patterns. Because I'm like, oh my god, where do I look for patterns?
Right. Okay. Actions. Or folders. Okay. Does everyone know how to do the font thing? Like downloading fonts? Is everyone good with that?
I'm good with that.
Okay. Awesome. If anything, I'm always available. Here's well, you guys already have me on Discord, but anybody who doesn't know my Discord here. And yeah, I'll walk you through it. But overall, thank you guys for coming. It was just like an hour, so not bad, right? 8 hours worth of working on this, 1 hour, not bad.
It's beautiful. You
Thank
did
you.
amazing.
Thank you.
Yes,
Yeah.
and
Thank you
people
for
will
the
watch
hard
it
work.
in the future. So
Yeah.
Exactly. It's gonna be so helpful to all the beginners.
I knew like I wanted to do a really good investment and like get everyone pumped up and get everyone together finally so we can have a little chill time. And all of you have to come to the movie watch. We're gonna schedule a movie watch soon, so I don't want any excuses. We're watching Mulan or something.
Yes. Mulan.
Well, we'll vote on it, but anyways. All right. Well, thank you for coming, and until next time.
Bye.
Thank you
Bye.
for the workshop. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good night.
Have a good night. Have a good morning. Have a good afternoon. Wherever you
I
are.
gotta get ready for work now.
Have a good
goddammit.
one.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye.